Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends, well wishers, and family from across the globe. Such a pleasure to welcome Dr. Shivani Gupta. We have in front of us a role model, indeed, a true grit story in every sense of the word. Dr. Shivani Gupta is not a name that can be taken lightly because I've known her journey personally and very closely and very well. What she embodies is truly the spirit of determination, the desire to be autonomous, the need to be able to stand up and be able to prove to the world that limitations of any kind do not hold back an individual when they are ready to face the world with true grit and determination. Today's story is a personal pleasure for me because Shivani and I have known each other for close to 33 years now. I've seen her as an individual, I've seen her fight against adversity, I've seen the challenges that she has faced in the physical sense, the limitations that she has faced from a, let's call it an emotional sense, but what she has done to ride and climb over it, in spite of her physical limitations, in spite of whatever the world had to throw at her, that is where the inspiration for me to talk to her and the reason behind the show itself, True Grit, in a way comes from an individual such as Dr. Shivani Gupta. Shivani, I don't know how else to introduce you, but having said what I did, I'd really love for you to take a few minutes to talk about yourself, early childhood, and what made you Shivani Gupta that I first met 33 years ago, before your true story starts after that. But welcome to the show. Such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Rajat. It's really my pleasure to be on your show. I have really enjoyed seeing all the episodes, and what is really brilliant is you bring out aspects of people's lives which perhaps other shows don't bring out, and I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you so much for inviting me first. And now going back to my childhood and my early days, I had a very regular childhood, with my parents and my oldest elder sister. I was at Wellams in Dehradun. I was studying there. I finished my 12th from there. My father used to be in Nigeria, so we used to just go there for our vacations. And it was a very, very nice childhood, like I guess all of us would have had. I was a spoiled brat, and I didn't really like studying or doing anything. And, all I wanted to do was gossip and have a good time and play around. And that was me. And of course, then I joined the IHM, and when we met, and even I don't think IHM was my first choice. There was some, I wanted to get into NID because my sister was a designer, so I wanted to follow her footsteps, but somehow that didn't work out. So, of course, IHM, and I don't think I ever regretted it. I
No,
really
I
loved
don't think so.
IHM.
True. Yes, we met in IHM, and you and I, of course, spent 3 years together. And I want to move to the point where the growth of and the presence of Dr. Shivani Gupta started taking shape. I want to cut the chase and come quickly because the world that is going to see the show should know what you have done and why that has happened. So there was an incident that happened in your life in the year 1991. It hit all of us very heavily. It left you with a challenge that you are dealing with even to date. I don't think there's anybody better than you to even say it in your own words, because I think that is where I believe was the starting point of the journey that defined you thereafter. Because earlier than that, as you rightly said, you were just another individual like any one of us in another institution amongst the myriad in India. But what set you apart was something very important in a negative sense, but you faced it, you climbed it, you took it by the by the horns, as I call it. What was it? and what did you go through? If you have a few minutes to share, if it's not too traumatic, if it's not too traumatic.
No, 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 no. You're very right, Rajat. The true Shivani actually emerged only after I met with an accident in 1992, which left me paralyzed neck down. So it was a spinal cord injury, and I was like instantaneously paralyzed within a moment, which I didn't even realize, for several months that what I couldn't really feel anything, I couldn't move my hands. So it was very, I don't know, at that moment I didn't feel the gravity, of course. It took me some time to understand what had really happened. And it was a life changing moment. And definitely it's the journey after that has really brought out who I am. And really, it's a journey where I learned so many things which I would not have otherwise. I challenged myself in ways, or in an ordinary life perhaps I would not have. So it's been I mean, of course, it was negative at that moment, but when I look back now, I think it was a great thing to happen in a way, in a very corny way.
You said it with such, simplicity and so much of ease today, Shivani. I remember that day. You were a good friend, a dear friend, and we all were affected by the news. And strangely enough, you were a painter. I've known you not only as a class fellow and a coursemate. I'd also known you as being somebody who's very good with art and were able to paint very well. And one of the biggest things that happened in my mind was, how will she do what she used to do? In terms, there were a few of you, there were three or four of our good friends who were into painting, and you were one of them, and you were very creative, if I remember. And that was one of the things that did strike me at that point in time. But when I look back at the 33 years that have gone by, I see that you have not given up any of those things that you had with you, but you've only gained more in spite of the challenge. So, what happened after that? Because I'm sure it took a while for you to recuperate, to come back really to getting a part of your being in an orderly way. I don't think day one was I'm happy, I'm okay, I'm back in any sense of the word. What was that journey from that moment to where you reconciled with reality and said, you know what, I am not giving in into this. I'm taking it, you know, head on by the horns, and I'm going to fight it. What was that time frame that happened between that incident and when you said life is not going to stop here in any sense of the word? How long was that?
I don't know, Rajat. Frankly, when that accident happened, I was living for the day. I didn't know what's happening. Everything was so surreal. I was just, whatever is happening, just existing. And I don't think I had any plans. I didn't have anything I was looking forward to. There was a lot that I lost. Yeah. I mean, if you just are not able to do anything yourself, suddenly you've lost everything. I mean, not just yourself, you lose friends, you lose, the way you look at yourself, the way everyone looks at you, it's all really different. So I think I was really existing for the day and just going on as life progressed. But I very distinctly remember one incident. I had gone to this Haridwar with my parents, uh, and we were standing in the queue for darshan, and one lady came and gave me some money, thinking I was a beggar. because that's how you look at people with disabilities many times. And I think that, again, it was really sad, it was really bad, but it was a life changing moment because it just made me feel that I have to change everything around me. I have to take things in my own hands. I cannot live on charity of not, I mean, forget this lady looking at me in that charitable manner, but even, from my family, from people around me, why should they look at me in a very charitable manner? Just
Correct.
because I'm disabled, I don't want that. And I think that was really a life changing moment, which was perhaps after 2 or 3 years of my accident.
When I look back and, every time, and all of us are so proud of what you've achieved for yourself, for the community, for the country. And really, you are an example because I think before you took on the crusade, I don't think there was that respect or that appreciation for the limitation that somebody faces. I don't think ramps were a given thing in India. I don't think accessibility was even thought about. I don't think anybody was looking at it from the standpoint that somebody who has a limitation. Now, limitations can be multiple in nature. Some are physical, some are emotional, some are, you know, financial, what have you. But that empathy factor, I don't think existed as a whole, and it has changed considerably in India now. But I feel it is, maybe I'm biased, maybe there were others prior to you, but I have a feeling that till the time you came in and you opened the doors or the windows to shine the light onto how people have to start looking at our brethren, our friends, our family members who may have faced adversity of a different kind, I don't think there was that appreciation. What do you think about it, Shivani? That's my opinion, and I was already out of the country, but that's the feeling
Yeah.
that I get.
So, when I look at it was during those time I got an opportunity to go to UK for some rehabilitation. And that's where I saw, like, there were people all around in town center on the wheelchairs, zooming around on electric wheelchairs, or even the older people. And they were so much a part of the society and the community. And whereas when I looked at my life in India, I hardly ever went out.
Yep.
And it was also so because the environment was not very friendly. Forget the attitudes of people.
Right.
So, well, attitude is one thing I had learned, that just to overlook it, because people have a certain way in which they decide to, look at me. It's their problem. It's not really my problem. And
Wonderful.
I decided that I want to do what I have to do and what I really want to do. And painting was one of those things. So I think yes, I am, in fact, one of the pioneers in the country to, talk about accessibility, to bring in a lot of awareness, and to actually create accessible environments. I actually did a diploma in architecture technology because I wanted to really understand the subject really well. And I did a post graduation following that in inclusive environments, which I did from the Reading University in the UK. I mean, it's just because I wanted to do what I do in the best possible way.
Yes.
As a disabled person, I could have been an accessibility consultant just from my own experience. But, there are some technical things in everything that you do. And I really wanted to excel, and not be like what you say, a quack in what I'm doing.
Right.
And I think that's why I went in for my post graduation and whatever, and became one of the pioneers, because there was respect then, because this is a person with a disability, not just talking from her personal experience,
Mm.
but also from a very theoretical and a sound background.
You
So
balance the
people,
practicality of having the limitation with the theory of having learned what can be done to address it without making it being charitable, without it being some kind of a,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely,
people till that point in time, at least, we all were suffering from that bias. If I look at you, you probably helped open our eyes to so many things. I personally, and having lived in the US, and like you rightly said, you see a more homogenous society here, more of a, you don't see the difference. But in India, it was, we used to have this, literally we were dividing people based on your capabilities, your abilities, your caste, creed, color, your looks. There was a lot of segmentation happening, and one segmentation was limitation of what you could do physically or you couldn't do. And we were pretty flippant about it. When I say we were, I was also an equal party, because that is how it used to be. That's how we grew up. That sensitivity was lacking in better people and in worse people like me as well, only because the world in where we were growing up did not have the opportunity to look at it in a holistic manner. I get a feeling that you helped us open our own eyes to what can be achieved further and beyond. And so where I want your help is to even help me and educate me that you came out of this, you faced the world, and the world was not as welcoming, or possibly it was welcoming but in a very different kind of a way, and you took it upon you as a challenge. Was that something that you decided that education is first what I want to get to, or did you have to go through some kind of getting yourself mentally situated a lot better before you went in there? What was that progression? How can people learn from you as to how should they go about it in the event, God forbid, there is ever such a situation in somebody in the family is facing? What was that approach that you had taken? I'd be very, very benefited
yeah.
by knowing how you did it.
So Rajat, I don't know if you remember, I was never a great student, even at IHM. I never liked studies,
Me too.
but I did like to study, and even now I don't like to study. But frankly, education gives you a base, and especially for a woman, I think education is extremely important.
Beautiful.
And if that woman happens to be a woman with a disability, even more important. Because I think independence, self reliance, and the confidence, it really comes from education. And of course, IHM was great and I learned a lot, but there were certain aspects of life that I learned. Of course, I did gain my confidence in IHM, but perhaps the hotels was not a line for me that I could continue. I had to change. Now, if I had to change, even if it was in the area of disability, there has to be professionalism.
Yes.
You know, for you to be able to deliver in a more human rights, kind of um, approach, then you need to really understand what disability is from a social point of view. It's not a medical issue, it's
No.
really about the society, and persons with disabilities are same as anyone else. I mean, the challenges that you may face emotionally, financially, and whatever you just mentioned are the
Yes.
same.
It's the same. Yep.
But
Exactly.
there is a tendency of protecting persons with disabilities. Oh, ye nahi kar sakta.
Hmm.
Or parents are overprotected, or they'll say, "No, this person is no good," so let us not include. So there are these strange attitudes towards persons with disabilities. And to challenge that, the only thing is to have a sound base, sound education, because then you are respected in what you are saying, you are recognized.
Right.
Otherwise, you just aren't. I mean, it's
You said
difficult
it.
to be a disabled person and be heard.
Actually, you made two very important points, and I'm going to move away from the fact of what happened in your life which set you on. I think I want to focus on the fact that you overcame it in your own unique style. But you said something very important. Protectionism kind of sometimes hurts the individual because their sense of wanting to go prove something also gets limited. And I think you've said another very important thing. eh, Women being empowered is an even more important thing in a country such as India, where there have been challenges with, as it is, female genocide and infanticide and what have you. I use the wrong word, genocide. It's infanticide, where the woman child has been impacted for so many generations. In fact, there has been some kind of a limitation, at least till not too long ago, on the girl child in being allowed to go and try things, do things. And over and above that, if you have some kind of a restriction due to physical or emotional or whatever encumbrances or things that hold you back, that becomes even further more a barrier to overcome. So what you have done, really, in my humble opinion, is you've helped break those barriers. You've helped prove that there is a way to move forward. So, if I were to say, what are your biggest strengths? I think, as you rightly said, when you were in college, life was just regular and easy for us. But, and we were not really concerned as much about education and stuff like that. But today, you are a known individual, of course, with education to back you up. But what are your three strengths that I would probably want to understand in addition to your determination and education? Is there anything else that you think that holds you in good stead?
I think perseverance is a big strength. I would just stick to something, not give up. And also, like, never, yeah, determination is, as you said, I am very determined. And I'm uh, very independent or self-reliant in the way I think. And well, it can be seen as a negative, but in my case, I mean, I would like to see it as a positive because that helps me chart my way in the way I want to move and not be influenced by everyone around me who may have an opinion based on my limitation.
Correct. Correct.
So I
Correct.
would say that again is a strength that I have.
Independence was something that I think we have noticed, because there used to be spats that sometimes you used to have. Not you and I, but generally I could see you could hold your ground back in the college days
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well, and you could hold
yeah.
your ground very well. You
And
would not accept things the way they were thrown at you. I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
those days. I think that was
for
one of your
sure.
biggest strengths. Go ahead.
And I think that came from the fact that I've always been in hostels, always been very independent. So I think it just came from that fact
So do
that,
so do you
yeah,
continue
go
with
on.
painting even now? Do you continue indulging in painting even now?
Yes, I do. And in fact, during the COVID, it was the golden era for my painting work.
Yes.
So yeah, I do, and I have just shifted back to Delhi, and I plan to restart painting again, especially on weekends because it's really therapeutic.
It's very
And
true.
I actually started painting as a therapy after my accident because my hands were paralyzed. There was no way I could hold a brush. So it was, just trying to make some dabs in the beginning.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes,
And
it's
how
been a
long did it
journey.
take? I'm sorry, I'm kind of, probably poking at things that you may not want to, but it is so important for people to learn that that is where the determination, the true grit of yours, that you did not give up what you used to like, which was art and painting. You found it therapeutic. I'm sure that journey to even get to where you are today, where your lines are so well formed, your paintings speak for themselves, that art that comes out is not even art anymore. It is a pouring of love from your side. That's how it seems to me. But I'm sure after that, it wasn't, as you rightly said, picking up a brush and being able to make it happen. Did you set some goals for yourself, or did you just say, let me take every day at a time and see how it goes.
Yeah, well, it was the latter. I took every day at a time because I never knew I could paint again. I could hardly hold a brush. Yeah, it used to slip out of my hand.
Beautiful.
And there were these dabs every day. Every day I would just sit, just the color. And I remember during those days, I needed to be with myself. And painting helped me be with myself and not look at everything around me because I didn't know who I am. I was rediscovering myself.
Meditation, you could call it
Yeah,
meditation of sorts. Okay.
perhaps you can say it be in a very meditative state, and art helped me in that. So it
Wow.
helped me be in that state, and it helped me also make my hands a little stronger and stable to be able to hold the brush. So I think it took me nearly 2 or 3 years before I really started making some hand painted cards, and I'd sell those hand painted cards. I'll make some little money out of it. And because I wanted to be independent, I used to use that little money to buy my own painting material. I mean, there were tough times, yeah, tough days. I used to go in an auto rickshaw to actually go to a fair where I would sell my hand painted cards. And for me to go in an auto rickshaw is not easy, yeah, because I can't even stand. And in the heat of Delhi, my legs used to get burnt. I don't know, it was a strange time, but I just
Mm.
had to do it, yeah. And whatever, the thing is, whatever opportunity came my way, I think that is one of my strengths as you. I never let an opportunity go.
You
As
know,
long as I can do it, I
yeah,
will do it. No
that
matter
is
how
you.
difficult
Right.
or how difficult it may be for me to do it.
Shivani, that's what makes you you. I mean, as you're speaking, I know what emotions are going on in my chest. I'm reliving some of that, and I was far away from you. I was 7,500 miles away from you, but I could we were connected through all our friends and everything, and in reunions, etc. I have had the opportunity to be with you. We've got pictures clicked and all of that, and everybody would send over all the good work that you're doing, and I was following your trajectory so much so that even if I'm not mistaken, the president of India recognized you for your work. Would you want to talk a little bit about what was that work and why would the President of India have Dr. Shivani Gupta um, in you know uh, recognized and awarded? What was that all about, Shivani?
So I think it was more for my work in accessibility. As I said, I'm one of the pioneers. And this was the Role Model Award. So on 3rd of December, which is the World Disability Day, there are these awards given out. At that time, it used to be a presidential award. And I received the National Role Model Award by the President of India. And most amazingly, it was President Abdul Kalam at that time. But the sad part was I wasn't there to receive the award because I was in the UK doing my post graduation. So my father actually received it on my behalf.
What a
So,
proud
but it
moment.
was a great honor to receive an award by a person like him.
What a proud moment for your father. What a proud moment for you, and even more so for people, your friends like us. I mean, we can hold our heads high and say, not only am I friends with a real PhD from our batch, but also a President of India awardee. I don't know
Yeah.
how you feel about it, but I feel elated that I can say I am friends with somebody who's been recognized for her stellar work, for her ability to, you know, carve the path, blaze the path. It's not even carve the path, blaze the path for future generations. You are truly the true grit embodiment. I feel blessed that I'm getting a chance to talk to you about it. Now,
Oh,
I
thanks
know
so much, Rajat.
I know that the award per se was not your consideration at all. That happened, as they say, in the true sense of Bhagavad Gita. You did your karma. You did your karma. That happened to be the outcome of your karma. But Getting the work done and and being the pioneer in a country, was that easy? Were doors opening up easily, or were there challenges that you had to overcome, Shivani? And what kind of challenges did you have to overcome?
Well, doors were never opening easily, yeah. So I remember I started consultancy for businesses to become more inclusive with two of my friends and then colleagues. It was very difficult for us to sustain our business because we didn't want any we were not aiming to get any kind of funding because we felt that we were qualified. And if we were providing a consultancy, even if it was in the area of disability, people ought to pay for it. It needs to be appreciated as much as any other consultancy. So that was our model.
Right.
And it wasn't easy for us to sustain because obviously everyone wanted our service to be free. You know, कि डिसेबल के लिए कर रहे हैं इसके लिए क्या पैसे भरने. It's not like that. So it was very difficult for us. And I think we worked for nearly 3 years, and each day was a struggle, and we were spending from our own pockets. And we did though do some good work as well. We like ISB Hyderabad was one of our clients. Then we worked with the ITC hotels, so across the country, and we there were. I mean, we did slowly start getting clients, but these clients, I think, a lot of times were dictated by norms from the Western countries,
Hmm.
because they needed to, like, for instance, I work with the Deutsche Bank, and they have norms internationally that they need to be accessible.
ADA,
And
the
that is
ADA
the
compliant,
reason,
the ADA
yeah,
compliance that they call it.
yeah. So that is the reason when they would invite us, and it worked for us. But it was not easy. It was not easy, and I don't think it's easy even now. But things have improved a lot. Now we have a Disability Act, in which again I had a role to play, which
Wow.
makes it mandatory for even private service
Right.
providers to be
Right.
accessible
Right.
to persons with disabilities. So it's been, yeah, it's really changed the way things are.
Right. So you see a positive change happening, and literally now the country and the population is understanding that accommodation is not being made because you're doing it as a favor. It is being made because you're being really truly inclusive, because that's what
Yeah,
this is all about. And that's such a
absolutely.
positive feeling. It's such a positive feeling that we're getting to that point. Shivani, what is the road ahead? What interests you, and how do you see yourself continuing to add more value not only to India, but to there are other nations which are probably still going, lagging behind a little bit. We are surrounded by countries around us in the Indian subcontinent. Do you see there is some value of the kind of work that you've done, making inroads in the development of their own population towards the right direction?
So, in fact, Rajat, a very interesting question. I have worked in a number of countries apart from India, and in a number of developing countries. And what I see is their struggles for inclusion are very much the same. And they're taking the same trajectory and inaccessibility and attitudes. It's just the same. So I have very recently taken up a new assignment with the organization called CBM, that's the Christian Blind Mission, and it gives me an opportunity now to work in developing countries across the world,
Beautiful.
and to for organizations, external stakeholders, whether it is the other development and humanitarian organizations, or whether it's the UN or private agencies or the government, to look at aspects of inclusion in what they are doing. So this new role gives me an opportunity, to reach for a greater audience, a greater platform. So I'm really looking forward to that.
You know, I'm going to ask you a very sensitive question here. For for people who are unaware or less aware, let's say people like me as well, till you don't face adversity, you don't recognize it, or unless you're exposed to it. I may be blessed that I have met people and have friends such as you, and I live in a country where I have seen it up close and personal. But if you were to help some of us understand, how would you tell them what should they be thinking about from a point of view of inclusion? How should they be at least helping, let's say, children grow up with that kind of a better vision? How can we make ourselves a lot more connected to the reality of life, and be a lot more welcoming than how we have been? What would be your thought around that?
So I think my thought about that is to recognize that all of us are human beings, huh? And we have the same struggles, we have the same aspirations and the same need for recognition, and to just look at diversity as a part of the human, the whole human thing, and not something different. I mean, after all, persons with disabilities are a part of human diversity.
Absolutely.
So rather than focusing on what they cannot do or how they are different, I think to focus on how they are similar may actually help everyone to include them much more. And persons with disabilities need to be recognized as stakeholders with the same rights, and
Yes.
it's not about, again, as I said, uh, mollycoddling them or ignoring them,
Correct.
because they are the same human beings. Yeah, what I want is really what you want from
Correct.
life.
Correct.
Just because I'm a disabled person, that doesn't make it different. And that needs to be recognized, that we are all the same.
So true.
You may
So
have a challenge in many different ways,
very true.
and we all have certain challenges. Mine are a little more obvious than yours, perhaps,
Yeah.
but we are all struggling on a daily basis. And
All
I
right.
may be struggling maybe just a little more, and that's it.
So beautifully stated, Shivani. Shivani, I know we are coming close to the end of our conversation today, but you know what? I really feel the value of your experience is something that all of us, from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, who just talk about it, should actually start implementing it from the bottom of our heart. I have a friend of mine who is the diversity and inclusivity leader for one of the organizations here. I would actually really like Sharmila to meet with you, Sharmila Fowler. I'm taking her name here because I'm going to forward this video to her. I'm hoping that she's going to have a opportunity for her to meet with you as well. There is a lot that we I would like to spend more time with you on, because this is an area which I feel all of us need to start appreciating, not because of any other reason, but because of the fact that in our families, in the world that we live in, we have to become more respectful for each other. Not only because there is somebody with a limitation, we have to become respectful for each other across our skin color, our where we belong to, what racial background we come from, what economic status we come from, what limitations we carry, and all of this is a part of that, really, that diversity and inclusion that we hear about, but it has to start somewhere. And what you've just done with me And what you've helped me understand is how your journey is actually a step in helping us look at it very differently, because I never looked at it differently myself till the time I got a chance to see your experience and learn from it. So for me, Shivani, um, you've been kind of not only a pathbreaker, a trailblazer, but you've also helped me become a lot more appreciative of how to welcome and look at people or in every walk of life a lot more openly, and a lot more, with a warm welcome. I think this is the biggest thing that I've learned from you over the years, Shivani. Any parting thoughts before we sign off today? Any lessons that you've had that you'd like to share with us, or any good moments that you'd like to recognize that you'd like to share with us?
So, just a parting thought that I like to leave with, and something that has really helped me face life and continue is, don't look at what all the adversities as something that happens to you for a bad reason. Adversities are things that actually help you create yourself, to actually help you move forward, and to make you who you are. I mean, I feel that if I did not have adversities in my life, I would be no one now. I would be like such a dead person. But it's all the adversities that have fueled me and pushed me forward to be who I am today.
You've said such an important thing. When you look at the greatest achievements of people, they've come from very humble backgrounds, or they've come from very, very challenging, family situations. The best of the sports stars, the desire to really excel has come because something was not there, which was making their lives easy. One hears about LeBron James and what happens with him as a child, and look what he's achieved. One hears about, people who have fought adversity to rise to the top of their game. And what you've said is such a eye-opening thing, that sometimes when you have limitations, adversities, or roadblocks, that is when the fighting spirit comes out. And that is when the true you comes out, because your
Yeah.
grit and determination takes you to go ahead and achieve uncommon things, or achievements that a mere mortal would not even consider trying for. Shivani, thank you so much. I mean, in fact, this has been it is a very emotional conversation today for me. I mean, I feel I may have taken you into some very difficult moments. I apologize if I took you into some very tough corners of your personal life, but I felt that, for the value of this conversation, I needed to know, how did you take the bull by the horn? How did you face that adversity? And what lessons can people like us learn from you? And I'm really grateful to you for that, Shivani. I truly am. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Roger. It was lovely talking to you.
Right. Thank you so much.